All right, it says we're live, so let's hope we are. Hello, everyone. This is the Good Questions, Bad Answers Facebook live show. And for those that are watching this in the future, it's obviously the YouTube show. And if you're listening to us on podcast, well, obviously it's a podcast show as well. So we like to cover all our bases, to cover all the people that may or may not, or hopefully may want to watch or listen to this. And for those of you that don't know, or for those of you that are new to this show, basically this show is about good questions, bad answers. And sometimes there's not even, questions, but we like to cover different topics. And we have a Facebook live show that we do. And so the audience gets to participate. They use the comments, they can ask questions in real time, and we'll try to answer it to the best of our ability. And it's usually bad answers, and we're okay with that. My name is Joshua Jack. I'm the host. My co-host is
Tim Izzo.
And Tim, how are you doing today? How's your week going?
It's going well. Hasn't been too exciting thus far, but I'm happy that it hasn't been anything bad yet. So can't complain. How about you?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely not ups, but there's definitely not downs. So
yeah,
you can't really complain one way or another. Right. If you're watching now, if you wouldn't mind saying hello, telling us where you're watching from. We always like to welcome our guests, and that's about it. So tonight we have a special treat. We are talking about, tonight is a full-on tinfoil hat special. Of course, I'm not going to wear this tinfoil hat the whole time because it is hot, and it doesn't fit very well on my headphones here. But and for those of you that are listening on podcast, this is basically a hat that I covered in tinfoil, and it's hot. And I put it on my head just to signify that this is tinfoil hat time, and it is a safe place to talk about anything that you want to talk about that's off topic. The weird, the strange, the ones that you don't want people to think you're weird to talk about. But you can talk about it here because this is the safe place. And so tonight we're going to talk about a couple different things. And I think it's going to be an interesting conversation. And I hope that the audience hops in on here and participates, because if you don't, it might be a short show. But that's okay. All right, Chris is driving up to Atlanta. Well, Chris, have a safe travels. Yes, and we appreciate. I hope you're not driving. I hope someone else is. but anyway, we appreciate you being here. So tonight, let's talk about basically social engineering and media propaganda and all the things that are out there that kind of play to our belief system. It plays to the way we think. Advertisers out there, they do a really good job of identifying human behavior, and then they do marketing campaigns based upon that. And it's not just advertising companies, the government does it. And Chris is listening, and we appreciate that. And so, the first topic is Operation Mockingbird. Now, did you take a look at that, Tim? Did you look at that over? What was your thoughts on that? And we'll talk about, we'll explain what Operation Mockingbird is here in a second, but just off the top of your head, what did you get out of it?
I mean, it kind of shocked me, as much as it's like one of those things that you kind of worry it happens in the world, but you kind of hope it doesn't. But right. So it kind of was a little shocking. I mean, I didn't even know the name of the operation or anything, but I read it, and I was kind of shocked how long ago they were trying to, manipulate people, and especially here in the U.S.
Right. So Sean is here. Thank you, Sean. Thank you for being a part. He says he loves the hat, and yes, like I said, this is a tinfoil hat time, and yes, it's my poor attempt at wrapping a ball cap with. Actually, my wife told me it's aluminum, and I'm like, oh, I totally ruined the tinfoil. But it works. But yeah, no, it's interesting because even back in the day, I mean, they saw the value. I mean, intelligence, behavioral, manipulation, that goes. I mean, that's human nature, right? We try to manipulate. We don't try to, but we learn enough human skills to talk to others, to try to persuade, to try to get people to see the way we see things. But this is taking it one step further and basically engineering an outcome. And so what Operation Mockingbird was actually a CIA operation back in the 1950s, 60s, 70s and Russia had their own program the same way of influencing the world by either having reporters that were in on it or reporters that weren't in on it, and basically leading those reporters to report on certain things to influence the outcome or influence personal opinion, right? And then obviously, there was a big stink in the 70s, and then intelligence had a big overhaul in the 1970s, and a lot of things changed. But did they? Because let's face it, the CIA is just one organization, but you also have a lot of other organizations, not government, but we also have private organizations that want you to believe a certain thing. And the reason why, real quick, Patrick says, hey, he's here. Actually, he says, yo, late to start, but howdy from Oklahoma. And we appreciate you, Patrick. And Patrick, if you have any questions, or if actually any of y'all, if y'all have any questions, be sure to put it in the comments. Let me put the banner up because I wrote this. Oh, well, first off, say hello and tell us where you're watching from. I already said that. Ask some questions, get some maybe okay answers. And seriously, don't take our advice seriously. But this is a safe place to talk about weird stuff like this. But anyway, the reason why I wanted to talk about this topic is, Tim and I, we're involved with a lot of social marketing. We're involved with a lot of, how to get people's messages across. And then also I saw last week, and we've all seen it on our Facebook timeline. We saw the videos of I think it was in 2018. They had these news sites. There was like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, and they all said the same thing. They all had a certain script that they had to say. And it was by Sinclair Broadcasting or Sinclair, I forget the name, but they own a bunch of the conservative news radio or the news programs, and they wanted everybody to talk about this one script, and it was basically talking about fake news, and it was kind of a not an attack, but a segue into liberal media. Be careful of that, and that's just one instance, and I'm not focusing on Sinclair as a group or even right or left. Both sides do it. Some sides do it better than others. Like if I were to do something like that, if I wanted to get my message across, I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have written, I would have had the gist and say, hey, come up with your own, but say it this way, but to have everyone repeat verbatim, that's just, there's a radar, and then there's activities that pump above the radar, and that was one of them. And I think that was probably a bad move on that part. But okay, Casey, man, I went to high school with this guy. Man, I appreciate you being here. He's in Pace, Florida, by way of Crestview. So, Casey, thanks for being here, bud. So I thought that was interesting, right? So we have all these groups that want us to believe a certain thing, and so they influence media, social marketing, the things that we see on social media to make us believe a certain thing one way or another. Tim, since I talked to you last about bringing this up, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, it's one of those things that is kind of bone chilling, but at the same time you could see the good in trying to understand how to interact with people and try to get the best out of situations. But I also feel like it's one of those things that's like, once you've learned it, you can't unlearn it. And so once society learned how to do it, there's going to be people who are going to abuse it and use it in the wrong ways. And it does seem like from time to time those type of organizations pop up, and like you said, they go above the radar, and you could see that that's what they've been doing behind the scenes. And it's kind of just bone chilling, like I said, to know that they're out there doing this to us.
It's kind of like it's a tool, right?
Yeah.
It's like a hammer. It can be used to build something, but it can also be used to destroy something too.
Absolutely.
And depending on who the hand that wields it, we got to be careful. And then we, as ourselves, I think we have to raise our awareness about these type of things that are out there, because there's a lot of people that don't look beyond the surface level. Like there's so many things that I see. And Sam, thank you for that comment. I will get to that in a second. But there's so many things that I see that, like, okay, for instance, on Facebook, all the time, people share missing kids news media or what, like there's a blurb that this person's missing. They share it, and immediately, what do? Well, I'm a curious person, so I go and check on that source, only to find in the first page, hey, updated. They were found. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
So we as a society need to become better aware of this, because we just share the crap out of, sources that may, the news is already gone, or in some cases, if it's something we believe in, it may not be totally correct. So therefore, we're just kind of egging it on. Sam says this: have you seen Out of Shadows? Lots of talk about Operation Mockingbird and its continuing use in media in Hollywood. I have not. Actually, that would have been a good resource to watch before I did this. But hey, you know what? There's plenty of weeks left. There's plenty of episodes we can do, and we can always circle back to this. So I will make sure to watch that. And Sam Singer is a great guy. I worked with him in the past, doing some different things, and I always valued his advice, because he's a thinker, and maybe one day we'll have him on the show, because he has a lot to talk about, and he's really good at articulating stuff. But yeah, so that was interesting, and here again, like I said, it's not just intelligence organizations. I mean, there's private organizations on both sides of the political spectrum, and I don't want this show to be a political stomping ground for either side. And I would like to be kind of open-minded on either. I'm conservative, but I'm also open-minded, so I can listen to different things. And there's certain things that no matter what I hear, I'm going to be like, no, that's not going to work. But I'll listen to you, and I'll agree to disagree. It's like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to get into a spat with you, because it's just, wasting my time. But so yeah, no, it's just really interesting stuff. And then, going on ahead, well, let's talk about Facebook or Google, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, tell me your story that you found about Facebook and the different.
I watched at least one documentary, and I know that even some of the people who worked with Facebook admit that they've engineered Facebook to work sort of like how slot machines work, where they get you excited about the results that are happening, or the anticipation. And one of the things that they figured out is, and I mean, you can see this now if you ever get on Facebook, is the notification will pop up first in front of your eyes, and there'll be a delayed second before the ding pops up, the sound, and that gives you some anticipation of it's happening, and then or it's vice versa. It's the sound happens first, and then the notification pops up.
Mm-hmm.
And that way you're kind of more addicted to what's happening. You hear the sound, and you gotta wait to see what happens to it, and it kind of drives you to be more excited about being on Facebook, because of all these like little micro surprises that they've put in there for you.
Right, and I'm glad you brought up the casino aspect of it. Is you're totally correct. I mean, there's so many different dings, flashes, and Patrick just says it. Dings, flashing alerts. Yep, addictive behavior, and it is addictive. I find myself wasting tons of time on Facebook for what? It's very rare. Now I have a lot of great friends, and they share a lot of. I have a lot of great friends, and in those, there's a small percentage of that actually provide valuable information or esoteric or information that I'm like, wow, that's really good. But it's really hard to find that. I mean, because most of it's just sharing junk or sharing false, things that are proven wrong or whatever. Okay, Sean says this: Facebook tracks 52,000 data points on you, and the news feed is designed to encourage you. Yeah, no, you're absolutely. And we're going to talk about that here in a second as far as echo chambers, because that's huge too, because we all get stuck in our own we get stuck in our own views.
Yep.
Jarrett says this: social media will get your attention either way. Every fourth post is sponsored. That's right. And Patrick is a meme master. All right, I haven't seen any Patrick, so you have to show me. Typically, what you're searching on the internet too, and that's another crazy thing. Let's talk about, and we've talked about this before. This kind of is getting off topic, but how many times have you talked about something, and all of a sudden you see it on your phone? I mean, like I said, they have gotten to the point where, I mean, they're using your data to come up with a make and model that you need, so you'll buy their product. In fact, I heard of one story I told you the other day about a guy found out that his daughter was pregnant because all of a sudden he started getting advertising, like mail-in advertisements on pregnant related items, and his daughter was like a teenager, and he confronted her, and she, whatever. Now, I don't remember the exact story, but it was something that in my studies that I found. I'm like, wow, that's crazy, because they can find out so much about you. They'll know more about you before you even know about it. And that's the sad. That's a crazy thing. But yeah, I mean, so not only do governments do it, but also private entities do it too, and yeah, it's a worrisome thing. And then you have people on the far left, the far right. And I think social media, like I said, I waste tons of time just scrolling. Why do we do this? Well, and on some level, I think it's because everybody's curious, and we're trying to find that niche or that need or that to fulfill that hole or whatever, that curious thing that we're trying to find, but we never do. And like I said, it's very rare that you come across something that's very like, oh wow, I'm glad I scrolled for the past hour to find this little post, right? I mean, it's and honestly, I think social media is going to be the death of us all.
Quite possible.
I hope I'm wrong, because like I said,
I hope so too. I hope there's more benefit that comes from it.
Because like I said, it can be used for good or evil, but you find that they utilize it to get your attention, they utilize it to get your money, and we'll go back to media here in a second to talk about advertising and propaganda and things of that nature. But something I've come to learn. I'm going to take this off because it's hot. I got these lights, and for those of you that are listening to this on Facebook or on podcast, I was wearing a tinfoil hat or an aluminum foil hat, but it gets a little warm under there. But what was I saying? I was talking about. See, this is what happens when I don't write stuff down. I need to write it down as I'm thinking about it, because I immediately kind of took a dump. But we'll come back. Daniel says this: I believe that. I was searching for an American Pride Rogue shirt on you, and now Facebook shows it. Actually, we know how to do that.
Yep.
Tim and I know how to do that. We know how to retarget you because Facebook has a code. What is it called? It's a pixel. And what you do is you embed it into the ad or the web page. So every time you go to that web page, it collects that data that we can then retarget you with ads. And it usually takes about 7 to 8 exposures before you will choose to buy something. So Daniel, if I wanted to sell you a Pride Rogue shirt, American Pride Rogue shirt, I know that it takes the average person 7 to 10 times before they'll actually buy it. So I want to make sure to retarget you 7 to 10 times with different ads or different things on Google or Facebook or whatever. And so, it's this whole apparatus. And so when you see that, they're targeting you, and that's business. And like I said, it can be good. It can be used for good, but it can also be used for, hey, they're manipulating you. All right. Patrick says this: the key to remember is while we think of them as technology companies, their business model is that of an advertising company. Nothing is free, and with them, you are the product. Even though they compete, they sell your data to each other. Yeah.
Yeah, the largest currency for them is time. The more time that they can take from you, chances are you're going to spend money on that platform or whatever it is that they can, suck up your time for.
Yeah.
And so that's what they go for.
Yep. But let's go back to media. So and Patrick kind of talks about this, they sell your data. Well, media sells, they want you to do the same thing. They want to keep your eyeballs on their page. So what do? They talk about things that are personally that you're emotional about. So so that you can keep your eyes on it and therefore see more advertising. It doesn't pay to talk about news objectively anymore. What happens now is they talk about a subject, they throw their own half truths, and both sides do it. I'm not saying one way or another, but they talk about different things, and they have talking heads, and then it becomes an editorial to. So number one thing in marketing, you answer the question that's already going on in someone's mind, and that's what media does. They know that people out there are scared about different things, so what do? They do news stories, and they offer questions, or they do just enough just to make it questionable. So it goes it goes along with your inner monologue, right or left. So it keeps you on that page, and therefore they make more advertising dollars off that. Right? It's not about. I mean, that's something I've come to learn. Oh, that's what I remember. Okay. Before I forget, because I want to talk about this too. Okay, Sam Singer says this. This is why I don't click on men's health articles anymore. Every other article is about pegging. And I should have read that before I brought that
up. Yep.
I need to get Sam, you got me. That's funny.
Well played.
All right. Well played. For those of you on podcasts that are listening to this in the future, Sam Singer got me because he doesn't want to hear about pegging, and honestly, I don't either. And if you don't know what pegging is, I'm not going to explain it to you. You can go Google that.
You have resources.
Yes. So therefore, then you'll have that popping up in your feed from there on out. So, troll. Yeah, no, I got trolled. That's funny. Sam, you got me. Good. I'm glad you're here. But like I said, media, they do this, and they want to sway public perception on different things. So they'll have you keep coming back. And so why do each side of the media play well with different politics? So they can get the inside scoop. So, so it's kind of quid pro quo. Hey, I'll go lenient on you if you give me an interview, or, hey, I'll do this. Because really, at the end of the day, it's all about money. It's all about advertising, and it's all about trying to get people to stay on their site. And like I said, going back to social media, and why I was going to talk about why I think it's going to be the death of us all, is the thing with social media is you don't know how big a movement is. You don't know, like Tim, his Facebook. If you don't mind me using you as an example.
By all means.
Okay. So like Tim, if you looked at his Facebook profile, you would think nothing about him. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but Tim has a lot of knowledge as far as Amazon. He has a lot of knowledge as far as like how to help people get on Amazon. He runs a business on selling through Amazon. In fact, when we first started talking, I thought he was a fake person because he didn't have any of that stuff. But at the same time, I've also known people that I thought were successful at face value on Facebook, only to come to find after the fact, they ask the most basic questions on a private group that we're both a part of. And I'm like, it was a very eye-opening experience because I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy or gal is doing these on the surface amazing things, but in reality, they're not. They're totally lying. Or they're totally embellishing the truth. And so case in point, you take that one step further and you talk about some of these groups. And I've always used this analogy. Like, let's say you come across someone and they hate the color purple. They just hate it. Well, you're like, well, that's weird, right? But guess what? They get online and they say, I hate the color purple. And that one person, okay, so if you saw this person out on the street corner with a sign saying, I hate the color purple, you would think that guy's weird, or gal, or whoever. That's a weird thing. Why do you not like the color purple? That's stupid. But they're by themselves. But on social media, guess what? You don't know how big or small that movement is. And, long enough and loud enough, they say, hey, I hate the color purple. And then someone in another town sees that and says, you know what? I hate the color purple too. And now that's two people. So small movements appear larger than it really is. But then it starts to get to the point where normally you would look at that and say, that's crazy, that's stupid. But perception is reality. And if you think it's bigger than what it really is, then eventually you're like, well, maybe there is something to the color purple. You know what? I don't know. So and that's the problem with social media is there's really no, at least now there's it's just really kind of hard to figure out what's truth and what's not. Pat, let me read this first. Okay. Patrick says this: flat earthers, there cannot be that many, and they can't be that vocal, but damn, they got a presence. You're absolutely right. I mean, I've heard it said that they have members all around the globe. I don't know. It's crazy stuff. I mean, there's a lot of different beliefs and thoughts out there, but here again, that is, that's the issue with social media. Like, and that's why we got to be careful about some of these movements that we see. And that's another thing that I wanted to talk about is, and here again, like I said, if you have any questions regarding this, or if you want to get back on topic, because, we start off, as with our show, we start off with different topics and then we kind of go the way of the rabbit trail, but then we come back on topic. Here again, I need to write this stuff down because just by explaining that, I kind of forgot. Okay, so Sam Singer. Let me read this. Okay, awesome. And I'll be sure to put that in the show notes. Sam,
yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Sam provided the YouTube link to the Out of Shadows link. YouTube doesn't make it very easy to find, so he saved us some time. So thank you, Sam. Appreciate that. Let's see. And then I wanted to talk about denial and deception campaigns. I took an intelligence course a few years back on denial and deception. And a lot of it has to do with propaganda. It has a lot to do with changing someone's perspective or changing someone's, something of this to look over here while something else is going on. And I think we see this time and time again. And I'll use an example from World War II, and it's something that I quickly got. So, and I didn't vet it, so it could be wrong, but it kind of plays, it gets the point across. And so a denial and deception campaign, which would have worked, that worked in World War II, was the Japanese bombing Pearl Harbor. When they were moving out, they put out news media, or they put out a big campaign that they were actually traveling to San Diego to evacuate Japanese personnel, or Japanese citizens, and take them back. Well, they didn't do that. That's what they said that they were going to do, but they did something completely different. They attacked Pearl Harbor, and we were surprised because we're like, well, we thought you guys said that you were going to do this. And so, or something more recent, and this is kind of near and dear to me, and I don't want to get too far into it, but Benghazi, and we'll and I'm not picking on one administration over others, but that's just one thing that comes to mind. Benghazi was not in response to a video against Islam or Muslim. It was something completely different, and a lot of people died over nothing. And then afterwards they try to do different responses to make you think another thing, when in actuality it wasn't anything, and they knew it from the get-go. So that is another denial and deception. And so we got to be really careful about what we see and hear, because whenever you hear media, or whenever you hear movements, trust but verify. You really got to figure out what is out there. All right. What are your thoughts on that, Tim?
I kind of agree, and then I want to try to make my stance clear, because I'm not trying to step on any toes here. It's one of the reasons why I don't necessarily trust the military. It's not the people that are the soldiers and all that stuff. I know many people who are soldiers, and they're great people. And I appreciate all they do for our country. But what I have the issue is that they don't always know why they're there. and that's not their fault. They're not necessarily told exactly why they had to go over
Mhm.
to a certain part, and I feel like there's many times we find out later that there was an alternative motive, and it wasn't necessarily one that was as pressing as it seemed like we
Right,
should be over there for. Like a lot of times it's for oil or something like that,
right,
and that always has bothered me.
right. Well, I've been reading a lot of books about leadership, and I read General Mattis's book about called Marines too. my brother, who is a former Marine, or he is a Marine. It's funny for those of you that are Marines. They say that once a Marine, always a Marine. Why re-enlist? And that's why I got out after I did my 5 years or four. I did 4.5 years, but anyway, in General Mattis's book called Codename Chaos: Learning to Lead, it talks about he was in a lot of positions where he didn't necessarily agree with something, but he did it because he was in charge, or they
Yeah,
told him to. And it's not that I don't trust the military. I don't trust the hand that guides the military.
yeah. That's really what I meant too.
Yeah. Because Agent Smith, if you're watching this, I'm totally for the government. And I am. I mean, I do believe, and then this is another conversation that we should have at some point, as far as like, what makes a society. Well, a society is based on a group of people believing in one or two things, like the Constitution or the Bill of Rights or something like that. But then when you have usurpers using that against you to change the fabric of the society, well, then you have a problem.
Mhm.
And I'm kind of curious about, I'm kind of worried about that because, we're seeing more and more of that fabric being stretched
Yeah.
within the liberty of what we have here. Um, I was going somewhere with that. Oh, but in my experience, it's just interesting because I think a lot of people at the top, they have some other things going on. Jarrett says this: fake space missions are a hilarious topic too. There are so many people believing it's so fake, but there are some good conspiracies on it that may, it's funny.
Yeah.
There's a show out there called Coast to Coast. It comes on AM in midnights, and when I was out on the border working mids, I would listen to that show all the time. And although it was interesting topics, if you listen to something long enough and loud enough, eventually you're going to be like, well, maybe there is something to hating the color purple. I don't know. It causes you. I mean, no, it really happens. Yeah, exactly. He says he listened to that show so much, and that's why you think, yeah. I mean, there are good conspiracies, and yep. Patrick says
Ooh, I
this.
like that.
Clauschwitz. Actually, I need to read that on war, but I heard it's very cerebral. War is a continuation of politics by any other or by other means. Yeah, no, it is. It really is. And
That's a great quote. I've never heard that before. That spot on.
yeah, he was Clauschwitz, if I remember correctly. He wrote a book on war, like in the 1700s, 1800s.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and it talks about politics, and it's still widely read in leadership circles today. I need to read that book, but I probably need a group to read it with because it's pretty cerebral from what I understand. And then it's also written, kind of dated. But yeah, so okay, we covered that. I have an outline, guys, so I'm trying to stick to things that I. So yeah, social engineering. It's all about creating triggers to keep you informed.
And I wanted to add on to that. One of the things you talked about was how they might try to spark a false, try to trigger a false belief and make you switch to the other side of things by like showing you something that might, intimidate you or worry you. One of the things that I've learned in marketing is that a frustrated customer is one of the easiest ones to convince the other way. And
Ah,
so a lot of media will try to frustrate people so that they have an easier chance to sway them. And it kind of was like what you were saying.
mhm. No, you're absolutely right. What is social marketing? Or no, what is marketing? Right? Marketing is telling a story in such a way to have someone change their thoughts or beliefs at the end of the story. That's all it is. and
Yeah.
and like I said, people have been doing it for a long time, and they've gotten really good at it.
Yeah.
And I mean, okay, so like let's talk about some of those things, like FOMO,
Yes.
fear of missing out.
It's
Every time you
huge.
see an ad, it's written in such a way to make you feel like you're going to miss out.
Yep.
What else is there? There's and it works because it's human behavior. People don't want, so a couple things here. People want to feel like they belong to something. So when you create a brand and it's cool, okay. Why do people make choices? It's based off of personal status.
Mm.
Every decision a person make is on some level, the status is going through their, the question going through their mind is this going to help or hurt my status? And I don't care
Absolutely.
who you are. I don't care if you're a good person, a bad person, if you believe in helping others. On some level, there's that, okay, is this going to help my status? And it sounds very selfish to even say that, but it's true. I think everybody has a point of a part of that somewhere deep down. Yeah. Okay, so
There's a book that I still need to read. I have a few friends who have read it, and they talk about how awesome it is. It's called "Trust Me, I'm Lying" by Ryan
hmm,
Holiday, and basically it's like the confessions of this media manipulator, and he explains like the behind the scenes of how news
hmm,
and media is doing all these things in ways to manipulate mass amounts of society and try to get them to either purchase or feel a certain way as a whole so
hmm,
that they can get a whole country or society to create a movement or to and sometimes do nothing so that they can get away with whatever is going on behind the scenes. And it's kind of a from what I've heard, and I've read some snippets on it too. It's a very eye-opening book because a lot of people don't realize how much is going on and how much they are being manipulated. And that's why I always suggest people try to learn about this a little bit, because then you start to see it happening and you can like stop yourself from being manipulated because you know what they're trying to do to you before it happens.
right. Yeah, and it's funny because when I first got into sales or different things, and then when you see some other people doing it to you, you're like, listen, bro,
Yep.
what are you doing? You know, you have no power here. But I mean, but then but
that
then
that was one
sometimes,
of the I agree.
like,
That was one of the funniest things was, as I learned marketing and sales and stuff like that, I started to pick up on my own behaviors and how people were suckering me in, and I'm like, man, that is one of my purchase behaviors, or that is one of the things that I do, and that I'm a sucker for that. I'm an ideal customer for that person, and it's maybe a lot better at stopping myself because I realize, like, okay, they're just putting pressure on me. It's not like I have to have it now. There's no FOMO, you know. But
yeah, uh, feel, felt, found. That was one of the first things that I came across that was like a sales technique, right? So people come to you with their objections, and feel, felt, found is basically, I understand how you feel. Tell them something about tell them about someone else who felt the same way initially, and then tell them what they found. Like, yeah, I know how you feel. I felt the same way when I went through that, but I have found that this works. And it's funny because once I learned that little, how to do this with one little trick, and once I did that, I was like, now every time I hear that, I'm like, okay, you're just trying to roll me. I'm not
yep.
interested anymore. All right. Patrick was a recruiter. Jedi mind tricks don't work here.
Well, it's a perfect example. If you can educate yourself on it, you can see right through it.
Right. And that's true. And then Heather says hello to Jarrett. I think they used to work together. So yeah, no. So it's like I said, it's a very interesting topic, and it's not really a tinfoil hat because it's happening. There's no conspiracy. The conspiracy is the who's doing it, because if they're really good, you won't know, right?
Yep.
And so I guess that's where the conspiracy lies, and that's why I think it's always important to expand on what you know, learn, read, figure it out, trust but verify, because when you do that, it helps you. No, I mean, and also kind of gives you self perspective to make decisions based on what you know. I mean, you can't, if you don't know what you don't know, then you don't know, right? And then when but anyway. Okay, so hello. What else? I think that's pretty much it. I think we covered pretty much. Is there anything that we've?
I think.
Yes.
Oh.
Sorry. Oatmeal.
No, I'm glad you caught yourself.
Yeah, I forgot. I didn't check that one off. All right. So here again, we live in a crazy world now. We have people on the right. We have people on the left. Joker's on the left of me. Wait, what was that one song? It was I can't remember. Joker's to the left of me, something to the right, and here I am stuck in the middle with you.
I can't think of it. I know what you're talking about.
Oh, well. But there's an article, and I'll include it in the show notes. So those of you that are listening on podcast, you can go to the description and click on the link to look at this. It's a lengthy comic, and you have to scroll down through it. It'll probably take you about 6 minutes to get through it, 7 minutes. And it talks about the backfire effect. And so what happens is we get stuck in in echo chambers. So this is the kind of same thing. That's right. Thank you. Thanks, man. Patrick Stone corrects us and he says, Joker's to the left, me, clowns to the right. And that's how I feel sometimes living in today's climate with all that's going on. But this thing is called Believe. So if you ever want to Google oatmeal Believe, this will take you to it. And it really talks about echo chambers and what echo chambers are, and what social media does is, the algorithms kind of figure out what kind of person you are, as far as, are you left leaning, right leaning? So then it shows you articles, it shows you things that will keep your eyeballs on the program. And so instead of feeding you new thoughts, it keeps regurgitating information to you that you like. So A, it makes it appear bigger than what it really is. And then B, it's just reinforcing what you think, for right or left. Now, so that's echo chambers. You kind of keep on reading the same stuff, and it just keeps on coming back and reverberating, reverberating. Sometimes I don't know how to use this thing right here, my mouth. But anyway, I'll show you and it talks about, and I'm just going to use an analogy. If, you may have heard George Washington had wooden teeth. Now, on the surface, you're like, okay. But what if I told you that, he had, teeth made of slaves' teeth? Well, that kind of makes you kind of like, oh, that's really strange. It's almost like an abhorrent effect. It like smacks you in the face. And so there was a study done, and like I said, it kind of goes really in depth, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here, but it talks about the backfire effect. And, the way we're made and the way our brain works is whenever we come across, so we have beliefs that we believe, and then we have we have small beliefs versus like really major beliefs. And whenever something comes across our line of thinking, especially if we're in an echo chamber that props up that super belief that we have, and if something else comes in and kind of shifts that paradigm, well, we can't take it at face value. Our brain is wired to take it as an attack. So that's why you see a lot of people, usually people that are unhinged anyway, they will attack because they can't have a conversation because whenever you bring up a new idea or a different idea, something in the brain triggers and it takes it as an attack. And it's a really interesting article. I mean, Tim, you kind of glanced at it. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I think you're spot on. I found that because they explained, a different fact about George Washington's teeth, and but they presented it in a better way, and it had, some facts with it, or uh, it provided, something that seemed very logical as how they came to it, and that made it much easier for you to digest. You're like, oh, scientists went out and went to his grave and did an X-ray to see what his teeth really were made out of, and like hearing those facts helped make it a lot easier to digest, because you're like, okay, I could totally picture in my head scientists out there doing this because they really want to figure out what's going on. But then when you hear that other kind of cringeworthy fact, you're immediately like, no way, because you want to justify why George Washington was awesome because of all the accomplishments he did for our country. And so when you showed me that article, I was like, wow, that's spot on. I could picture that happening to me, and tons of people who just blow up for what seems like no reason, that they're getting all upset about it, but you struck that nerve with them where they're like, hey, I'm going to defend that, instead of presenting them with a wealth of facts first that can help them ease into the fact that maybe that's the truth.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, and honestly, I think we as a country in the United States, I mean, I think we've kind of gone past that where we don't, civility needs to be taught again. The art of conversation and the art of, hey, agreeing to disagree. Like, hey, before we even get in this conversation, if we disagree, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay that we disagree. We don't have to get in a shouting match because I don't care. Nothing that happens in this conversation is going to change any one of us. You know what I mean? Like, but then again, and kind of going back to society, that's a rabbit trail, and that's probably another topic for another time. But something that I've come to realize is, right or left, if a small percentage, like if someone believes in something, but they can't run a community based off that 100%, then it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And so what I mean by that is you have, of course, I'm conservative, so obviously I'm going to pick, something on the left, but you have these people that believe in welfare, or you have these people that believe in certain things, and they want everything to be that way, right? Mm-hmm. But the problem is if you had a society that was totally based on just that alone, well, it wouldn't sustain and it wouldn't survive, is what I mean. That was a rabbit trail. I kind of went down a different thought process there, but that's something we could probably talk about some other time. But yeah, no, it's just an interesting time we live in, and that was just one example. Both sides do it. I'm not saying left, right, whatever. All right. Well, I guess, that's, that's all I got. Is there anything else that you want to cover, or anything you want to?
I just want to.
You know what?
You have something more?
We'll find out.
Ooh.
All right, folks. This is the first time that we're going to try this.
Oh, yeah.
So I've been thinking about interviewing random guests, or not interviewing random guests, putting a link in there where you can join us on this program. And if you want to come on here and let us interview you, or if you want to talk or have a question, you can click on that link I just put in the in the Good Questions, Bad Answers Facebook page, and you can join us. And if you have an audio or whatever, we can come on and we can interview you real quick. Yes. Do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? Any questions at all?
Bring them on.
Bring them on. We'll do this for 2 more minutes. We'll see if anybody has any questions, and then if not, we'll call it a night. And we appreciate you guys and gals and everybody watching. But yeah, if you want to hop on the show, click on that link, and we will do a quick interview. We'll be like, hey, what's going on? Talk to us. And that's something that I kind of want to implement in the future, especially on nights that we don't have guests. We'll interview, one of you. But the thing is you had to be the first person to do it. You had to be the first person to click it. if you're second, you're not going to get it, because I'm only going to bring one person on. And, some of the rules are nothing political, nothing top of the waist political, top of the waist religion, nothing crass or nothing PG-13. All right. And if it kind of goes in a different way, and if someone just jumps on there and is just a jerk, well, I'm going to ban you. So, and I don't, and as much as I like some of you in here, if you did that, I would totally ban you, because there has to be some sort of standard. All right, I guess that's it. So, all right, folks. Next week, I'm hoping to have. So what happened is I had originally had a guest in mind, a friend of mine from third grade, and I was going to have her on this week, but something came up in her life, and so she had to postpone until next week. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to do it next week. But my good friend Celinda Luker, she does social media management, and she does a lot of different things, and she does really well at it. And so we're going to have her come on, and we're going to interview her about what she does and how, maybe tips and tricks, what we can learn from it, how we can implement it in our own lives and in our own businesses and things of that nature. So I'm really excited about that. And then I think for tinfoil hat time next week, we will do, she does ghost hunts. I've done ghost hunts. And so we'll talk about our experiences.
I've wanted to do ghost hunts.
Well, no, it's interesting.
It is.
But we'll talk about that next time. So, all right.
Excited.
Hey, I appreciate all of you. My brother says thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Like I said, everyone watching this show would not be possible without you being here participating. So for those of you that hopped on, typed in, said hello, thank you so much, because like I said, the show would be nothing without your participation. And then as always, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, it's a lot more fun when you guys do participate. So
right.
I really appreciate it.
Right.
You guys bring up some good topics, and
yeah, you guys ask some awesome questions, or just different thoughts that I wouldn't think of my own. And also, and as always, if there's a topic or a question that you would like us to answer, maybe you don't want to bring it up online but you want it to bring it up after, behind the scenes or whatever, you can always reach us at goodquestionsbadanswers@gmail.com. And we'll do our best to give you some bad answers, but hopefully good ones. Some really good bad answers. The best of the bad. At least hopefully. All right, Patrick says, good show, gents. Hats off. No, thank you, Pat. Thank you. And I like your hat that you have in your
That's awesome.
Your bowler hat. That I can't pull that off, but you can. That's awesome. And then Mom, thank you. That's my mom. She says thank you. So, all right. Everyone, thank you so much. Tim, you have any last words?
Oh, thank you guys. This was a great episode. This was fun.
Yeah, it went longer than I thought. So I was kind of worried, but yeah. Oh, well. All right. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for spending your time with us this evening. If you're watching this in the future on YouTube, if you like the show, be sure to like it. If you want to see more of them, subscribe and look at some of our other episodes that we've done in the past. If you're listening to this on podcast, be sure to like us and subscribe. And then share it with your friends if you know that someone else will get something out of this as well. This is a variety show, so we're kind of all over the place, but I think it's fun. So, all right. Thank you so much. God bless, and share it with your friends. Like the page if you like it. I already said that. So
do it again.
Yeah, do it again just to make sure. Take care. Have a great week, guys.
See you guys.
Yep.